The Indiana Republican Senator Dan Coates was on the fence, at least until yesterday. Shortly after meeting with the president on Capitol Hill, he came out against any authorization of U.S. military strikes in Syria. Senator Coates is joining us right now. Senator, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Do you have any doubt that the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad did, in fact, use chemical weapons to kill more than 1,000 people outside Damascus on August 21st?
No, I don't. I think the evidence strongly points to the fact that Assad did use these weapons against his own people.
So what, if anything, do you want the United States to do about that?
My concern is that the president has not announced, and I've been in many briefings, including direct discussions with the vice president and, of course, the president's presentation to us yesterday. Plan B isn't there. We don't know what's going to happen if this so-called limited attack shot across the bow, unbelievably small, doesn't work. And what will it bring us, how will it engage the United States in potentially a fourth effort in the Middle East to resolve some internal problems? Hearts go out to those who have suffered, not just the 1,400 in the gas attacks, but the 100,000 that have lost their lives. And so we need, I think, very carefully to understand what our future is going to be in the Middle East in terms of how we can effectively engage and how we can't. Our people are war-weary, but they're also war-wise. We have learned lessons that what is laid out on paper in terms of our engagement, whether it's just an attack or boots on the ground, has not given us the results that we had all hoped for.
So if the Russian initiative were to fail, and we don't know if it succeeds or fails, but let's say it fails, if it were to fail, you would still oppose any U.S. military retaliatory action against the Syrian regime. Is that right?
Well, listen, I don't think it's all for one for all, forever draw the line. Clearly, circumstances can change that I think would put this maybe more in the strategic interests, long-term strategic interests of the United States. An attack on Israel, a retaliation, using those weapons across the border. You never want to totally draw the line and say no, but we need more different circumstances and more information than we have right now, I think, in order to engage.
So I guess the question is this, and I know that a lot of members are struggling, and I'm sure you're struggling as well. If a country uses chemical gas, sarin gas, to poison its own people, we just say, the United States just says, the world, the international community just says, that's too bad. Go ahead and do whatever you want, because that's the alternative. If you listen to administration officials, they say the president drew a red line deliberately because that is so outrageous. To do something like that, the world must stand up and do something, and if the world doesn't, at least the United States should for moral considerations. You understand that argument they've been making?
I do. Well, Wolf, I'm not sure that line was drawn decidedly or planned. It might have been more accidental. And the president found himself in a situation where he felt he had to respond. But no, we take each situation as it arises and we evaluate it on its merits in terms of what we can do effectively and what we can't do. Again, because we have not gotten a solid answer in terms of what do we do if this doesn't work and how do we engage, and do we yet get into a fourth effort in the Middle East which doesn't bring us desired results. I think all this has to be put in context of what we're dealing with now and what different circumstances we might be dealing with in the future.
We heard several of your colleagues in the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, say they hope this Russian diplomatic initiative works. Do you?
Well, I think we all hope it works, but I think we all have, or most of us, at least I do, have severe reservations about trusting the Russians. What is their motive here? They've been supplying Syria with weapons from the beginning. It is their surrogate country in the Middle East. They bought time, perhaps, who knows for what reason. So I think we need to be skeptical there, and I think the president has indicated that. But, you know, we sort of stumbled into this through accidental diplomacy. It did buy the president some time. I don't think the votes are there for either from Democrats or Republicans to pass this in the Senate and give him that authorization. So perhaps he wants to pursue this partly for the purpose of better explaining to the American people what our interests are and how we should go ahead. We'll see how all this develops, but we have to be skeptical about the ability of the United Nations even to technically carry this out in the midst of a war. So it's hard to see just how this will be implemented effectively and perhaps resolve the problem. But if it can be resolved in a constructive way, of course we would all support that.
Senator Coates, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
The other side of the